Any views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the journalists and guests are solely that of the journalists and guests and do not reflect the views, opinion, policies, or positions of Positive Lifestyle Management.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another episode of Clearing the Smoke. I'm your brother Fiji, and we have a very interesting topic here tonight. And the topic that we're going to be dealing with is a legal issue. It's a very important legal issue that needs to be addressed, and it concerns racism and basically miscarriage of justice and everything. And this case stems out of the state of Mississippi. It's ironic that this weekend in Mississippi is the unification weekend. But then I just received this information concerning this case. So I have to get into it because it's very, 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 very vital and it's very important. And this man here, this young man, or this gentleman, Mr. Sheron Edwards, needs all of our assistance in coming home. The man has been locked up over 20 years. So, and it's time for him to come home. He's been locked up over 20 years for one charge. And the charges is stemming from a federal as well as state. So he got 20 years in the state and he got 20 years in the Fed, and they running consecutive. This is, man, I'm talking about, this is horrible. So I would like to go on and get into this case and bring as much awareness as possible, because this man needs our help. His family need our help. So networkers, everybody, please get involved, because this is where we supposed to show up at. This is the time for us to show up. All the talking, all the nonsense, that stuff has to go out the window. This is the time to show up. So let's get into it. This brother here, Mr. Sheron Edwards. Now, Mr. Edwards, in early on March 15, 1999, I'm reading strictly from court documents, and it starts United States of America versus Sheron Edwards, and the case is 231 Federal 3rd 999 5th 933. I'm sorry. 5th Circuit 2000. So this case was ruled on in 2000, and this is the United States Courts of Appeal, the 5th Circuit, October the 26th, 2000. So we're going to get into the facts of the case. We're going to address the facts of the case, and I'm reading from the court documents, and I'm gonna read from the documents I've received from Mr. Edwards in the mail. Early on March 15, 1999, at approximately 12:30 a.m., Kenneth Barnes returned to his residence in Starkville, Mississippi. Now, we have to be mindful and be aware that Mr. Kenneth Barnes, his family, his father was a state court judge in Mississippi. So now we know that this is what's going on. Mr. Kenneth Barnes, his father was a state court judge in Mississippi. After parking his vehicle in the parking lot, he noticed someone whom he later identified as Edwards walking towards him. Barnes exited his vehicle, locked it, put the keys in his pocket, and started walking to his apartment. Edwards approached Barnes and asked for directions to the Mississippi State University campus. Now, according to the court documents, this is what Mr. Burns said. Burns knew he was in trouble. The campus was only 2 blocks from Burns' apartment. So this is what he said, knowing that the campus was only 2 blocks away, that this man, this Asiatic man, shouldn't have been approaching him, asking him where the Mississippi State campus was at. After Burns gave Edwards the directions, Edwards pulled a gun, held it to Burns' chest, and demanded his keys and wallet. Burns threw his keys on the ground. Edwards ordered Burns to get on his knees. After Burns did so, Edwards struck Burns on the back of the head with the gun, pulling the trigger simultaneously. Believing he had been shot in the back of the head because his body was numb and blood was coming from his mouth, Burns fell face first to the ground and pretended to be dead. Edwards took Burns' wallet from his back pocket and retrieved Burns' keys from the ground where Burns had thrown them. Using the keys, Edwards drove away in Burns' vehicle. Burns testified at trial that the armed robbery took place on the sidewalk off the parking lot about 15 feet from where his vehicle was parked. Burns ran to a nearby house and the police was summoned. After Burns described the robbery to officers, they drove him to the scene of an automobile accident. Burns' vehicle had been involved in the accident, and at the scene, he identified Edward as the assailant. Edward was charged with carjacking, causing seriously bodily injury in violation of 18 U.S.C. 2119, and use of a firearm during a crime of violence in violation of 18 U.S.C. 924C. A jury found Edwards guilty on both counts, departed upward from the sentencing guideline range. The district court sentenced Edwards to consecutive 120 months sentences for each conviction. All right. Edwards was sentenced to consecutive 120 months. He was sentenced to 120 months for the carjacking and in violation of 18 U.S.C. 2119, and he was sentenced to a consecutive 10 years for 924C, and at that time it was the discharge of a firearm. So if you are charged in the feds back in 1999, if you were charged in the feds with a 924C and for any charge, whether it was drug charge, bank robbery, whatever, they had 3 sets. You had the 924C, whereas you have a pistol or a gun protecting drugs. That was a consecutive 5 years. Then you had the 924C, where you brandish a firearm but then fire it. That was 7 years. But if you got the 924C, that if you brandish the firearm and you discharge the firearm, that was a consecutive 10 years to whatever else sentence that you received. So this is the reason why Mr. Edwards received the 20 years. Now, Mr. Edwards also was charged on the state level for the same charge. The exact same charge. Mr. Edwards was charged in the state of Mississippi, where he received an additional 20 years consecutive from his federal 20 years. All right. Now, let's get back to the story. Mr. Edwards' words was this here. Now, I just read the court documents. Mr. Edwards said he was a 23-year-old college student. He took the keys of a white man whose father was a state court judge. And as this white man was entering his apartment, He drove off in the stolen vehicle, wrecking it minutes away. He was jailed for robbery and assault. Once released on bond, he was arrested for federal carjacking. So he was initially charged. He was initially charged in the state with robbery and carjacking. Robbery and assault. He was released on bond. Soon as he was released on bond, the Fed stepped in and gave him a federal carjacking charge. Okay. A crime which never occurred. Okay, so he's saying that this charge never occurred. This was only the beginning of his double prosecution. An investigation behind the scenes revealed that the lead detective on his case was a Ku Klux Klan member who wore his attire inside of the city hall. The lead detective also tainted the collegiate school board hearing of Sheron Edwards by saying that he had shot the victim, which never happened. Then stated that he was going to make sure Sheron spent the rest of his life in the penitentiary. To confirm his words, the detective testified at both trials. The results, 20 years Fed, 20 years state. Now, here is where things goes crazy with this case. This is one charge. This is one crime. But the dual sovereignty exception kicks in. And this is what the dual sovereignty exception is. Double jeopardy has long been an established principle in the American legal system. However, loophole to this principle is the dual sovereignty exception, which allows offenders to be charged for the same crime on both state and federal levels. If during sentencing, a judge determined that the sentencing should be run consecutively and not concurrently, it can mean that the offender is serving time for the same offense twice. The same offense twice, dealing with dual sovereignty exception. Now, Sheron Edwards' case has become a high-profile case. It is high-profile. A lot of people are involved in this case. During the time Mr. Sheron Edwards has been locked up, he's written books. You know what I'm saying? He's gone to school. I'm gonna read off his achievement for you. Because the brother has been doing great since he's been locked up. So I'm gonna read off his achievements so that you can understand what's really happening and what this brother has done. During his incarceration, he has worked as a barber, GED tutor, legal research instructor, and suicide companion. Suicide companion is a mental health work program established by the Federal Bureau of Prison Psychology Department to prevent suicides in prisons. So what these guys do, they're if you're on suicide, if you're a suicide companion on that part of that program, you will go back. Like they'll lock these guys up in the shoe, which is segregation, and in some places they call it the hole. They'll lock them up. They'll put them in they'll put them in either in shoe or they'll put them in a hospital, and they'll lock them. When they lock them up, then that means now that the guy's up on the suicide watch, and they send the suicide companion back there to make sure that the guy does not hurt himself or commit suicide. Okay, that was part of his job. Sheron is also a certified personal trainer through the National Federation of Professional Trainers, and he has scored gold on a work key examination, a system of assessments and curriculum that builds and measure essential workplace skills that can affect your job performance and increase opportunities for career changes and achievement. He received college certifications from Merced College, Louisiana Technical College, and Holmes Community College in both computer application and welding. His most recent achievement, his two-part memoir, Life Lenses and Life Lenses 2, A Crack in the Concrete. Links below. Published on Amazon May 29th, 2021 and May 2023. Despite serving 2 separate sentences, state and federal, based on the same crime, he continues to display a plethora of productive duties while facing these challenging times. Please visit the link below for more information about Sheron. So, I have included the link below in the description where you can go look up his books, sign his petition. He has an online petition. I've shared that all over Facebook. So we need men and women to come out to stand up to help. Whatever you can do. If you would like to write Mr. Edwards, I have also put the address and everything in the link below, in the description below. So that way you can even write him. So to give as much support as you can, because he needs us. He needs us. I am trying to do my part by getting the word out to those who can help. And we all can help. We all have a job to do. So let's get on board. Let's help Mr. Edwards. Let's help his family. The man has been locked up since 1999. He's serving 40 years for the same offense. 20 on the state, 20 on the federal. So do we just sit back and watch this injustice? Because if we just sit back and watch this injustice, eventually we're going to be going through that same injustice, and we're going to be wanting our family and friends to speak out and others to speak out to bring some type of attention and awareness to what's going on with us. Always remember who's the enemy. Anyone who supports or condones the systematic warehouse and destruction of our brothers are in essence the enemy. So anybody condoning this here, anybody that's sitting back and won't say anything, then that means that you are the enemy. So let's help, get involved. And on that note, thank you, thank you, thank you. Peace.